Good morning, everyone. We're live on GETTR. I am Laura De Rosa, and this is a broadcast from the Freedom Post to interview Jason Miller, former advisor to Donald Trump and CEO of GETTR. Welcome, Jason. I'm so happy to have you in the Freedom Post.
Laura, thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be with you, and I'm so impressed with what the Freedom Post is doing all around the world. And this is exactly what we need to get the real news out there. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, Jason, for welcoming us when the Freedom Post team got on board with GETTR. At that very moment, I realized how strongly involved you were with giving the effort for supporting newly founded media like us in this shared struggle for values of freedom. I really appreciated the whole Freedom Post team appreciated too, Jason.
Well, you're welcome. And what we've realized after 2020 and 2021 is that this has been the worst last 2 or 3 years for political discrimination that we've seen possibly in world history. And as soon as we stop to have free voices, as soon as we stop to be able to express ourselves, then we become an authoritarian regime. And that's where so many of our friends and allies that come from places like Venezuela or Cuba understand much more at a granular level just how impactful the freedom of speech is. And I think many Americans, unfortunately, take it for granted, not realizing what people in Venezuela and Cuba have gone through or continue to go through to this day.
Yes, you're totally right. Yes. And about, I want to begin talking about some of the words that were spoken by a person that you know. Scott English, Chief of Staff, or Mark Sanford, former governor of South Carolina, both of whom you worked with in the past, and he once said, and I quote, Jason Miller is disciplined in the middle of a gunfight. He's good at thinking. What are we talking about? What are we trying to achieve? And being able then to go back to the message again. End of the quote. This is a very interesting description. And if we take this word as a metaphor, Jason, in the current political, communicational, and cultural gunfight, what are we talking about right now in the world? What is GETTR trying to achieve, and how do we get back to the message?
Well, what Getter's trying to achieve is to make sure that not only do we not have a further erosion of our free speech rights, as we see not just big tech, but also overreaching governments, even in democracies all around the world, start to put more restrictions, but we want to get more of our free speech back. We want to stop this wokeism, the cancel culture that, in my opinion, is really harming society. And in fact, if I were to take it one step further, I would say the identity politics, this belief that people should be rewarded based off of a category that they define as opposed to the merits of their character or the merits of their accomplishment, could be the ultimate failing of Western civilization. And so, for example, if you look for somebody who's suffering, who's starving in a breadline, or somebody who's in a war zone such as Ukraine, do you think they're sitting around worrying about pronouns and what they're
No.
being called? No. But in the wokest United States, those are the type of problems that people obsess on. And so my job is to get back some of our free speech rights.
You're totally right. Okay, in the Freedom Post, Jason, we published one recent article you wrote titled Not Even Elon Musk Can Fix Twitter by Jason Miller. And you expressed that there is a big difference between controlling Twitter and controlling Twitter policies. You also say, and I quote, Twitter is rotten to its core. It's clear that if Twitter is to be a force for free speech again, it needs a wholesale teardown to the foundation. Its leadership must be removed, and the politically discriminating ideologies running day-to-day operations must be replaced. And I end of the quote. End of the quote. So, Jason, how can you prevent this cancer that has affected Twitter that is not going to affect GETTR as well?
That's a really good question, and it's one that I receive a lot with people worrying that maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road, what will GETTR look like. Then I think that the way that we've spelled out our terms of service is we have them on the website, the way that we've spelled out our community guidelines for how we enforce moderation policies. we want to be held accountable to that. And we want people to call us out if they don't think that we're implementing and enacting those moderation policies in the way that we've described them. And I think there's a fundamental North Star that we have, a guiding direction with GETTR, and that is to support free speech and to oppose cancel culture. And in fact, that's a question that we ask people when they're in the interview process. Do you support free speech and do you oppose cancel culture? And we're always going to stay true to that ideal. But if somebody thinks that for some reason we're not, then obviously we want them to say something.
Hmm. Okay, now let's speak about the recent statement of Elon Musk when he said that he will allow Donald Trump back on Twitter. And do you personally think that he says so because he really wants Donald Trump back, or it is because he wants Donald Trump influence back on Twitter?
Well, you hit the nail on the head with that. If you look to the end of Elon Musk's comments, and this was at a Financial Times, essentially a future of the automobile online forum that he was doing. And you can tell if you read between the lines, what he really wants is to get Donald Trump's users back online. And in research that we've done for GETTR, between 20% and 25% of all Trump supporters from the 2020 election left social media after he was deplatformed. And so, as Elon Musk is trying to figure out how to best monetize Twitter, and he's already thrown out the number that they need to quadruple the number of daily active users, that's not just adding new people, it's getting people who have created accounts to come back and be more active. So he's realizing that without Donald Trump and without Donald Trump supporters, which is obviously they're going to follow Donald Trump, that Twitter have a very tough time scaling and getting back.
And do you think, talking about Elon Musk, do you think this deal between Musk and Twitter that is now on hold will finally go through?
No, I don't. And the numbers just don't work. I mean, Elon Musk has offered $54 a share. It is now currently down to $37 a share, which is a massive drop off. And even at the point when last Friday, a week ago, when Elon Musk started making news the deal would not go through, it was already at a 17% drop. So there's a very dangerous situation here that not only is Musk trying to tank the stock price by being very critical and referring to comments from the Twitter CEO as the poop emoji, and also essentially calling out Twitter for what would effectively be securities fraud by lying about the number of bots. He's absolutely destroying what's left of the platform. So this would be very similar to someone or to the Russians saying, let's go ahead and set up a beach club in Mariupol, Ukraine. There's nothing left. It's in ruins. What little bit remained of Twitter's reputation is now in shreds. And so I'm not sure what exact game Elon Musk is playing now, but he's destroyed Twitter. Tesla stock, by the way, is down 30% over the last month. And at a certain point, even billionaires don't like to lose billions of dollars. So, but I just don't see this deal going through.
I understand. Well, Jason, I would like to touch another point, a more personal one. You were watching from a first row seat how this cancellation culture was applied to Donald Trump. And as a result of that, GETTR came about. And my question is, what did Jason Miller feel at that time, being one of the many Twitter users?
Exactly. Well, it first really started in early 2020 as people were being censored and shadow banned and even sentenced to digital jail for criticizing COVID and saying that COVID came from a lab in Wuhan, which of
Mhm.
course we all know to be the case now. Even the New York Times and Washington Post have admitted it. But in early 2020, you were in trouble digitally if you did that. Then, of course, we saw the big tech outlets, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube collude to say that you couldn't talk about the Hunter Biden laptop scandal in the fall of 2020. And then, of course, President Trump was deplatformed in early 2021. As a senior advisor to President Trump at the time, as I was watching that, what I felt was that not had the goalposts been moved, out of the way, but almost that the goalposts had been removed. I'm sorry, had removed completely. So, say the Biden camp, they knew exactly what their target was, but the Trump camp, the ability to win, the ability to communicate was removed. And it very much felt like cheating. It very much felt like the rules of the game were completely changed in a way to rig it. And you realize just how delicate that balance is of free democracies, or what happens when people try to manipulate the system.
Hmm. And talking that you answer me, did you have to chance to talk to Donald Trump after that, but in a personal way? And if so, could you share with us what was said?
I think it's safe to say that he was pretty upset. I probably can't repeat too many of the words that he used,
Of course.
but definitely that he felt that it was a rigged system, and that. But even taking a step back for a moment, what a lot of people might not realize is that after 2016, Jack Dorsey from Twitter and Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook were blamed by many leftists, by many progressives, for electing Donald Trump. Now, the reason you might say, well, how did they help to elect him? Because Trump's superpower, his great ability, was to go around the mainstream media and go directly to voters. And without an artificial filter of the stories being manipulated and changed. And many leftists looked and said, wait a minute, you gave Trump his superpowers. Now you need to take them away. That's why I believe that Zuckerberg and Dorsey changed the rules of the game in 2020.
Hmm. Uh, Talking about the principle upon which GETTR has been founded, freedom of expression, independent thinking, rejection of political correctness. What we talk now, there is a gray area that might have to be clarified. On Twitter, for example, we can find representatives of terrorist organizations such as Hamas and Hezbollah. We can also find leaders of regime that permanently attack their citizens, as in the case of the regime of Cuba or Venezuela's regime with Nicolas Maduro, who is even being investigated for crime against humanity. Speaking of GETTR, will these people have a space in the social network?
No, we have made the decision that terrorists will not be allowed on GETTR. And if your goal is purely as an organization is purely to bring harm and destruction and hatred to another group of people, then we don't think that that fits in with our community standards. And so, whether that's the Taliban or the Ayatollah or Hamas, we have gone through and made sure that those accounts that currently are available on Twitter, by the way, are not able to be created on GETTR. And I think that there's a perversion when the Taliban, Hamas, and the Ayatollah are allowed on Twitter, but President Trump is not. What is the signal that is being sent to people of a free and democratic world?
Excellent, excellent. And now let's speak about Venezuela, the country I love the most. Maybe you can share with us your point of view of the fact that the Biden administration is now easing measures in the relationship with the Maduro regime, considering that the President Donald Trump during his administration had taken strong measures, and as far as we know, had mentioned taking even greater measures?
Well, let's not mince words here and make no doubt about it. Maduro absolutely is a terrorist. He's someone who's guilty of human rights abuses. We see his what I would say illegal elections that have taken place, and the way that he has both persecuted and prosecuted so many of his countrymen. And I'll just say, for an example, for GETTR users, where I've seen this firsthand, obviously as someone who has not been to Venezuela, we had actually on the very day that we launched, we had thousands of people that were signing up for Venezuela to join GETTR. And I remember looking at the map of the world of all the red dots of where people were signing up. And I'm like, wait a minute, are we getting thousands of people signing up in Venezuela? And yes, after the first day, it was gone. They shut it off. So you can't get GETTR in Venezuela. And that's because Maduro does not want his people to have the ability for free speech, does not want his people to have the ability to interact with the rest of the world and to see what freedom loving people want to pursue. And so that's obviously a tame example, but Biden seems to very much coddle and be soft on dictatorships, whether it's in Venezuela, whether it's in Iran. And seemingly the only place where he wants to, and especially China, I think that's probably because of Hunter Biden's business deals, but yet he wants to try to take us into war with Russia. I don't get it. Obviously, I'm not a political fan of Joe Biden's.
And talking about censorship policy that is in other social network is very common user who are treated unfairly and get sanctioned for minor offense. However, more important issues such as child pornography on Twitter are still permitted. So what measures are you taking together to deal with, for example, pornography, child pornography?
Yeah, great question. And to a certain extent, I will extend some sympathy to Twitter on the fact that they're constantly having people trying to post not objectionable content, but purely illegal content on their site. It's something, quite frankly, that we've seen. So what we use is both an AI, an artificial intelligence technology, but then also human review to stop that from happening. We're never going to catch 100% of everything, but it is our goal to make sure that images that are blatantly illegal are stopped, and we have no tolerance for that. But I do understand that there are bad actors out there, not just to say sick and twisted individuals, but you also have nation states. The Chinese try to cause a lot of problems. The Russians try to cause a lot of problems. And even non-nation states, different terrorist type groups try to cause a lot of problems as well. So it's something that we have to remain vigilant to. And that is never acceptable, whether it's someone's trying to do it to Twitter or if they're trying to do it to GETTR.
Excellent. Jason, in some other interviews, you have mentioned that GETTR broke the record of 1 million subscribed users after 3 days, with less than 2 months to go before GETTR turns 1 year old. By the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
How are those numbers doing compared to Twitter or Facebook in these first years?
Well, we're doing fantastic right now. We're at 5.5 million users globally, with half in the United States and half outside of the United States. And so as we see this tremendous growth, I'm actually in London at the moment. I was just in Vienna, Austria, a couple of days ago. I'll be returning back to the United States this weekend, but we've made a real dedication to growing the platform internationally. And that's why I'm very pleased to see our growth actually reflected in the numbers.
Wow, excellent. Congratulations. Jason, many people, including myself, are in shock after what we heard a few days ago about the intention of the Biden administration to open an information governance board. I suppose it's pending, but what do you think about that? In my opinion, it's a crazy action. Where do they want to lead the United States towards?
Well, I think what they want to do is move the United States towards what they see being debated in the United Kingdom, where I am right now, or what has already been passed and will take effect next January in the EU, where I just was a couple of days ago. And that is to have government ultimately take over the moderation of social media platforms. The inherent danger here is then political appointees, political partisans are then deciding what is allowed, what is not allowed on social media. And the gray area isn't, say, in purely illegal conduct. Everybody wants to have a safe online environment, just in the same way that we all love sunshine and puppies and unicorns and rainbows. Those are all positive things that we want to have. But when you in the UK, the debate at the moment is over legal but harmful. And so let's take, for example, if you're somebody who believes that there are two genders, if you do not then recognize that there are 47 or 74 or 174 different genders, are you then being harmful to people who maybe you have a philosophical or religious difference with? And I think that ultimately where I get concerned that this could grow to is, could it then impact discussion around religion? Could it then start to curb the ability for people to express their, particularly people of the Catholic faith? And I think that this is a really dangerous trend, but I think that's where the Biden administration would like to go. But unfortunately, Nina Jankowicz realized that she was not the right pick and stepped aside. And the Biden administration knew that they were losing badly on this one. But that's only because we made our voices heard. And just to be clear, if we didn't have social media to make so much noise about Nina Jankowicz, she'd be in charge. She'd be in control. If we didn't have the ability on social media to express ourselves, Anthony Fauci never would have been corrected on some of his erroneous policies. We'd still be walking around with 1, 2, or maybe even 3 masks on. So it's the bedrock of democratic civilization is to have legal dissent, to be able to disagree with your elected officials in a peaceful manner, but to be able to go and express your side. When you take away someone's ability to dissent, then really, again, you become an authoritarian regime.
Okay, yes, and finally, I would like to end this interview with a couple of questions we received from of our audience. How do you do in your team plans to attract influencers, an important political reference? It would be interesting to have, for example, Javier Milei or even Agustin Laje in GETTR.
Yeah. So one of the things that's a little bit of a chicken or the egg dynamic is where people, when they join the platform, they want to know that they're recognizable names and people that they're used to. And so we're making an effort to both bring people on, then also bring on bigger names that will help them stay. Part of that we're doing through our live stream feature, which we're doing right now with the Freedom Post, and also increasing both the number of news outlets, then also the number of essentially say big names that are on the platform. And so that's something that we're working very aggressively to try to do, and we'll make this the best user experience possible.
And the last one, are there any plans in GETTR to monetize for content creator?
Yes, absolutely. And so we're a little bit behind schedule on that. I would have liked to have had that up a couple of months ago, but we'll be launching the big developments coming up next on June 1. We're launching Vision, which is our short video competitor to TikTok and Instagram Reels, which will be very, very exciting. June 15, we'll be launching direct messages or DMs. And then later this summer, early fall, we'll start to launch GETTR Pay, which not only will be our payment platform, a competitor to Apple Pay or Alipay, but also a 2-coin crypto ecosystem that will allow people to earn effectively basic attention tokens for opting in to advertising. So you can earn cryptocurrency by seeing ads on the platform. Now, with regard to content creators, as soon as we launch GETTR Pay, we want to have the ability for people to tip or show an online appreciation for content creators, as we believe that will help bring more content creators onto the platform. But then also, as we see so many people being removed from being able to monetize YouTube and Facebook, this will be a safe way to monetize where you don't have to worry about that being removed from you.
Good to know. You know, Jason, I always say it in Spanish when I want to the audience remember something for the future. I say, guárdenlo en el estacionamiento mental, which means keep in the mental parking lot. So, content creator, keep this information in the mental parking lot, please. Well, Jason, it has been a great pleasure to have you here with us at this moment.
Yeah, and thank you so much. And I really appreciate the work that you're doing. I appreciate the work that the Freedom Post is doing. And really, I appreciate the work that all of our friends around the world who fight for democracy and freedom are doing. In fact, even when it comes to our logo, the GETTR logo with the flame above the, as we see above the T here, that represents bringing freedom and democracy to places where it doesn't exist, about bringing lightness to dark. And that's our guiding message. And
Jason, do you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I was telling you that at this moment, I would like to, if you can say a few words for the majority or Spanish-speaking people that we have as audience of the Freedom Post. What would you like to say to this audience to invite them together?
What I'd like to say is continue to come together, continue to make your voice heard. We very much share the ideals of freedom and democracy and safety and also basic human rights. I think you're going to find commonality here at GETTR, and we want your takes. This is a place where your political opinion will never be silenced. You know you will always have a friend and an ally here at GETTR.
Thank you, Jason, for your time. I sure hope to have you back here in the future.
Thank you again.
And for you friends who are watching us, join GETTR. Follow us out on thefreedompost.net. Find us on our social media as The Freedom Post. And I am Laura De Rosa. And you can find me as Laura De Rosa Mar. Thank you for all your time. Bye.